School Committee meeting. This is being recorded to be viewed in the future on SMAC. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Not happy about that.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everybody in the snowstorm. Great effort in coming in.
You all.
Yeah, I know that we don't have anybody signed up for public comment. I know, Joe, you were roaming the halls to look, so we're good with that.
Comment.
What's that?
I said no, but I want to make a comment.
Please don't. Mute him, please.
Huh?
No, okay. Do you
Yeah.
want to make a public comment?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify a statement I made 2 weeks ago about raising hell. It had absolutely nothing to do with anything illegal. It had to do with if you dislike something that is being proposed, has passed, to every legal measure you have to either write, email, phone call. Let us know, even if it's good or bad, including myself or anybody on this board. If you don't like it or do like it, reach out to us and let me know your opinions. But in a civil way. Thank you.
You did not sign up for public comment. I'm kidding. Okay. Well, okay, thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying that to everyone. Okay, so moving on from public comment, we have the superintendent update, so I will pass it on to you, Dr. Marcus.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Some quick updates for you all. We have at the secondary level, the biannual Youth and Parent Health Survey is coming up after vacation, and it's done by OASIS, and they do it every other year. So it's coming up this year, and Mrs. Patton has offered to come in, as she has done, I guess, in the past, and present that information to the committee. So that's neat, and I just wanted to share that. The fall 2 season is actually definitely coming up. So that's exciting for the students who are doing football, cheer, and volleyball, that got pushed back. And so that's exciting for them. I've had a few people ask questions about senior events. So what are we doing for seniors and where are we going to be at? I spoke to Ms. Miller today, and she and the team are working hard on planning out all of the different senior events from graduation to all of the different things that they do. And just wanted to let folks know that we're aware of that and that the high school team is working on it. So thank you for your questions, and we will absolutely make sure that class of 2021 is well supported and well loved. On the elementary level, I just wanted to let you all know that kindergarten registration is coming up. The elementary principals are working on that. They're getting the paperwork together. And it's going to be a combination of both online forms this year as well as some in-person meetings. But they're trying to do as much as they can online, which is great. So they're on top of the kindergarten registration, so folks know that's coming up. And finally, just a quick COVID update. We're just over the hump. Things are coming down. The numbers are improving, and that's great. Wonderful news, but as I always say, I want to remind everybody with vacation coming up and all that to not get lax and to sort of let your guard down and start having lots of get-togethers and all that stuff. But please, 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 so we can keep our awesome momentum going, please keep up with all of your safety protocols as best as you can. So
I have to tell you, that noise sounded like a plane was really low over the building.
It's the heater.
That's the heater?
that is the boiler
The boiler.
at the Jones Elementary School.
Wow. It just sounded like a plane, because
50
at the
something.
last meeting,
You
it was a
could-
louder banging noise.
You could feel it in the.
Yeah, you could
table.
feel it, so I was kind of like looking around going, what's going on? Sorry about that, Dr.
No, that's totally fine. And after it shuts off, that's when it's the pipes.
The banging?
The bang, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to know. Prepare yourselves. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Marcus? Okay.
Good.
Thank you, Dr.
Good.
Marcus.
Thanks.
Under new business, we have our wonderful supervisor of nursing, Ms. Danielle Gallen, to discuss the COVID-19 pool testing. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Mrs. Gropey. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is 2 school committees in a row. So, I have a brief overview of what pool testing is, and really, because the health and safety of staff and students is our #1 priority in SPS, this is why it's another modality in which we can keep our staff and students safe. Most kiddos who are infected with COVID-19 really have very mild symptoms. What we're seeing are a lot of cold-like symptoms, a runny nose, and a positive test result. But even with those very mild symptoms, we end up seeing spread in the community. And so by really narrowing it down and being able to identify those who have a detectable viral load, we're able to properly isolate them and keep school going, right? Keep everybody safe in the building. With regular surveillance of what pool testing is, and Mrs. Pina Anokian, it is not jumping in an actual pool. I'm so sorry to disappoint you. It's too cold outside for that.
Well, just say the joke.
Yeah, you have to say
Katie,
the joke.
just say the joke.
Well, no, she's going to explain it. And I was going to ask you if it's above or under.
It's above. We actually sit it right on the desk. So with regular surveillance testing, which is what this is, it allows us to help reduce the spread of COVID. And really, we want to maximize in-person learning in the safest, most effective way possible. So pool testing combines a group of specimens, anywhere from 5 to 25, in one tube. And one single test is done on that, or performed on that tube in a lab. If a pool is positive, so if one individual is positive in that pool, the whole pool will result back positive, and then we have to then do another test to determine who actually is positive. The test is very, very simple. It's a short swab. We're not doing this very invasive procedure, which I'm sure some people have heard about in the past. It's just the anterior nasal, right inside the nose. It doesn't go any further than just inside the nares. And DESE and the public health experts recommend that anybody 2nd grade or above can really do the test themselves. So I apologize for if this is crude in any way, but the thought is if a child can pick their nose, they should be able to swab it as well, which is really gross, but kind of give you an understanding of how easy it is. So if a pool comes back positive, each person in the positive pool is notified and instructed to come back to the school in which they were tested so that they can have a follow-up test. And our follow-up test is the rapid antigen test, the Binex Now test. That is done, results in 15 minutes, and we're able to either say, it's safe, carry on your merry way, welcome to school, or give them the proper isolating instructions and do our contact tracing as we have been doing. The current plan is to be able to do this district-wide on Wednesdays during the school day. So what that means is that staff and cohort C students will be tested every week, those who opt in to do this. This is completely voluntary. While cohort A and cohort B will be tested every other week. The results take approximately 24 to 48 hours to get back. Negative pools, so if you don't hear from us, it's good news, right? Mm-hmm. So negative pools won't be reported on, but positives will by nursing. And then just a brief communication timeline. We'll be sending out information to staff and families, the who, what, where, when, and how from Dr. Marcus. Information is going to be posted on the website explaining what this is and the why behind it. The newsletter, the RN newsletter, will be going out either tomorrow or Thursday. And again, more communication to let parents, family, and staff know and understand the why behind this. Online opt-in surveys, which I created today, will also be included. So we're trying to make this as easy and simplistic and as possible for staff and families. So the nice part about this, so whenever anybody tests positive with a PCR or with a rapid antigen, just that one-to-one test in the doctor's office, those individuals immediately have to isolate. But with a positive pool, the Department of Public Health says that we don't need to isolate that entire group. So that's actually good news. It gives us a chance to identify those individuals, give them the instructions of when they can have their reflex test or their rapid antigen test, and then make the determination upon the results of that test. It's completely voluntary for staff and families, but really the greater number of individuals who participate in this initiative will give us better data to look at the district as a whole and look at our infection rates. So we know what the community's doing, right? Because DPH reports on that, but really how well are we doing in the schools? And the more data we have, the better equipped we'll be to have more in-person learning. Another piece to this is that if an individual is tested positive in the past 90 days, they can't participate until that 90 days has passed. At some point, DPH is going to increase that to 180 days, but they have not done that yet. Vaccinated staff, like the Stoughton Public School nurses who have been vaccinated, they can still participate. And test results take about 24 to 48 hours to receive. So it's fast and it's cost efficient, and yeah, I think. Any questions? Yeah.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
so basically, it's trying to cast a wider net to get more testing done.
Correct.
To those who opt in. My question is, where is it going to be done? In the classroom? Or is the nurse coming to the classrooms? Are the students doing it themselves? I kind of heard that they can do it
yeah.
to themselves, but is it all done at one time on Wednesday at 10 o'clock? All the classrooms are going to do it? Or,
Right. So we're still Mr. Ford is my partner in this, and I appreciate all of his support that he and Dr. Marcus and the school committee have shown towards the nursing team. But we're still working out the very fine logistics of it. In the elementary level, the vision is that this will happen in the classroom. The goal is to disrupt learning as minimally as possible. In the secondary level, those kiddos will take breaks because they're long blocks. And so the thought is maybe we do this in the cafeteria or in a common space where as they walk by, it takes seconds.
Yep. And I assume their name or some kind of identification is on each swab as they do it? So you know
it's
who's in?
recorded as we go. This is a pretty big initiative and undertaking. Yes. So each pool, each tube, the individual will be associated with that tube in a separate database. So there's no necessarily identifying patient information on the tube.
On the tube or swab?
Like tube 1 will correlate to group 1,
Okay.
right, in the database.
Gotcha.
And so then we will know who to contact with a positive result.
And one more follow-up on, you said if one of the tubes shows up positive,
Yeah.
that means 1 out of the 2 to 25 swabs in it was positive. And then you narrow it down and you find out and you do a further test. So 24 to 48 hours for the tube to come back positive, and then is it another 24 to 48 hours for the
15
retesting?
minutes.
Oh, it's the rapid.
The
Okay.
rapid, yeah. And so depending upon the timing of the test results that we receive from the lab will depend upon when we're able to get that data to the family and then schedule the rapid test.
I have a concern around that. Can I just ask to piggyback off your question?
Yeah, I'm done.
I read something about in here that it stated that in the event that all members of the positive pool are negative, the group will be referred to follow-up PCR testing.
Mhm.
So does that mean that those students won't be allowed in the buildings and they'll have to go get testing, which could take up to 4 days to get the results back?
So there,
Is that like a mandate, or is it something we put in here?
no, so that's a great point. Thank you for that. So it happens if we have a positive pool and we do the reflex or the antigen test and everybody's negative, right?
Yeah.
So there's a reason why that pool tested positive. And it's possible that there isn't enough viral load on for the antigen test to pick it up. And the way the PCR test works is it's so sensitive that it picks up fragments of virus. The type of testing that's used in the in the pool testing is PCR it's a form of PCR testing. So it's very, very sensitive.
Yeah, sorry.
So if everybody is negative on the antigen test, we have to try to narrow down, okay, which one of these individuals threw off this positive PCR. And so they would be referred to PCR testing, which we have some spots locally, which have had phenomenal luck with, and we get back in 24 hours.
But
The other
are those
option,
kids not able to come in the building is my point. Like, are we saying to these kids, if they do the 15-minute test and no one's found positive with that pool, are they sent home?
that pool, I guess that's something that we really have to, that's an excellent point, Mrs. Gropey, thank you. I think
because I don't
that's
wanna-
a spot that we need to work out exactly how that's gonna,
Yeah, I guess if we can figure that out, because I'm concerned that we might have a different way in every building if it's done. I
so
think
the other option is a 2-day, so you repeat the antigen test in 2 days, but that keeps the child out of school, that group out of school as well, so.
Right. It's a big group of kids to be out of school, I guess, and it could be a couple days if it gets back. I guess
Right, no, that's an excellent.
families should know what that, if they opt in, they should know what the repercussion would be if that happens. I
And
guess.
so the likelihood that an entire pool on reflex testing would test negative, right, so we have a
But it could
positive
happen.
pool, is very low. I think the last stat I read is somewhere around 1%. So we're dealing with a very small percentage in which this could happen. Not that it can't.
But it could. I think we just want to make sure that the
Right.
families know.
So one of the things that we discussed leading up to this, because what you're talking about and the potential for having a significant number of kids quarantined out of school if a pool comes back, was one of the things that we liked is we could actually keep the pool size very small. And when we were looking at this, I think 12 would probably be about as big as we're going to go. So that if we do in fact have the scenario that you talked about, we don't take out like 25 kids or an entire grade level in a given school. So at the elementary, it works out perfect because the classes are about 12 kids with a teacher. At the secondary level, we can absolutely control the number of kids in each one of the pools. And because of the fact that, the state's paying for this, we don't have to really worry about economy of scale as a school district and say, we can only afford to do batches of 25. We can actually lower the number down to secondary level, 5, 6 kids, and do very small batches. So if that scenario does replicate itself, we're not taking out a
No, I
significant-
understand. I just think it needs to be vetted so we know, because families do get upset and then we end up hearing about it. And also, I know the state's paying for a short period of time and then we have to pick up, right? It's
Yeah,
up to.
they're paying until the beginning of April.
Right.
So,
So if this keeps going, we're on the hook. So I think that's important for us to know, because if families if we're doing 12 and they choose to opt in and then something happens, I would hate for families to feel blindsided if their kids can't come back in. 12 of them can't come in.
I hear you. It sounds like it's a small percentage.
Small thing, but it's a big thing,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
to-
understood.
All right, now I have 2 follow-up questions.
Yeah, sorry.
How long are we doing it for? If the state is paying for it till April, are we doing it forever, for the rest of the school year? How long, do we know how long we're going to be doing it for?
That's a good question. I think we've made a commitment through April vacation, and then, and then we'll.
Is it a month at a time
Yeah,
type
yeah.
thing?
I mean, I
or-
don't-
So tonight, just so you guys know, and then we'll bring it down to you, I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask that question, but we're going to vote on if we'll accept pool testing in the district, so that if they can initiate with the state. It's something that some districts have opted in on and
Right.
some haven't, so that's why it's important for us to kind of vet it all now and ask questions. And then I think if you two probably know a little more about when we do vote, up to what period of time or whatever, if you have an idea. Do you mind if I pass it to you for questions?
Sure, no, those questions were good. I thought the handout was good. I pretty much followed it. It just seems like, quite frankly, I think it's great. I think it's going to be, it's a step in the right direction. I think it's great. I think some colleges have been doing that, and it's a great way to sort of get a grasp on things and stop the spread. It seems like a lot of work for the school nurses, and I just didn't know whether you've sort of factored in other words, especially if there's a high interest in doing that, you factored in how much time. It just seems very laborious, and I'm sure you all wish you had like an aide to come in and help you with this. I just don't know if you figured that out with Mr. Ford. God bless you.
So we are having more help come in.
Okay.
So that's key. And then through the state grant, as it were, they offer support through the vendor that we would end up being with. So,
Okay.
yeah, so there's some support there, and then there's some more support that we will have in district to be able to support Mrs. Gallen and the nurses.
Okay, great.
No.
Joel?
I was just wondering, I see all the dates here. What is this already running in the state, and when are we expected to start it in our district itself?
Good question.
When do we go live?
So it is already running in some districts in the state, very successfully. The earliest that we would go live would be the week after school after February break.
Like,
Should be the
Looking at
The
like
Wednesday,
the
right?
25th, the 24th,
I
25th, yeah.
believe it's the
Wednesdays, yeah.
the Wednesday, which I like that it's the Wednesdays, to be honest, every other Wednesday when the cohorts are in, because then they have the 48 hours. They'll know before the weekend.
Right.
Right, and then
move.
we're also able to, really, with our staff, provide this every week, and our high needs kids, our cohort C kids, make sure that if they opt in, that they're provided the opportunity each week as well.
Yeah. It's nice.
If someone opts in, can they then opt out at some
Of
point?
course,
Okay,
it's completely voluntary.
okay.
Katie?
Can I do?
Yeah.
So I know that we have the funding for 6 weeks. Is it something that in 6 weeks we can revisit this again?
That's a good idea.
And then we can opt out of it if it's not needed?
Yep. So funding for 6 weeks?
Funding until the
The
state
state.
stops paying for it.
The state's
Yeah.
paying.
Because I feel like if it's something that it's not needed, then why would we keep it?
Yeah, so that wouldn't be under April, right?
But-
That's not
but-
6 weeks.
Yeah.
I thought it was
I
like,
just lost, I'm sorry.
No,
I know, it's
it's a deal.
part of an agreement
Yeah, so,
that I don't remember the exact date off the top of my head, and I don't want to talk falsely about that date.
Right.
do you have that?
I just remember 6 weeks, so that's
Yeah.
why I thought it was,
Yeah, and I think that 6 weeks would bring us, it would take us past the last date of the state sort of overall funding of it, but then would take us just 2 weeks beyond that.
I'm
So
lost.
that would be the 6 weeks.
So the state is the beginning of April, and April vacation's the third week. So
Right.
worst case scenario, if we stay till April vacation, we're paying for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But, so if we have to incur that cost, how are we going to handle that cost in the district?
Yeah, so we've looked at the budget right now, we've looked at the, what's available, and the big thing is we have grant money through the.
CARES?
The CARES money, the federal
Okay.
CARES money, is able to support that, so.
So I'm trying to be cautious, to understand. So you know up to what period? You say 6 weeks, that's the period that you guys kind of discussed and,
I don't remember the
I don't
exacts,
remember
but I
the
would
date.
say,
no, because I don't want to mess, like,
No, I don't have the exact language.
have to go back.
can you
and
look, Joe? You
I'll see
look
if I
at-
have it here.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, Katie, do you have any more pool jokes you want to give?
Well, I was just
Joe-
thinking, like, is the tube like the noodles?
Oh,
wow.
Wow, she's on a roll, didn't do, folks. Hold on.
You can- We can table a vote and revisit it if we need a minute to try to look it up, so.
Well, I mean, I would say we should vote for it. It's just
We want to, I
Yeah.
want to do your suggestion. I think it's a good idea because
bring it back.
you have
yeah.
to give a date and be clear.
But we
on-
also have to give the go-ahead to start. We
Exactly.
don't want to miss that.
Mrs. Gropey,
Yes, dear.
I could come back with actual data and numbers for you.
That's okay. If you want to do it, because we're not meeting, it's our cycle of meeting, it's probably best if you want to start it right after. I think it's a
Yeah.
beautiful time, right after a vacation week.
No, that's
because
great.
But
Then you can, so I think we'll wait until he'll get the info.
when we,
This-
the revisit though, if you'd like, when you revisit it, I could provide you with data
Oh,
and
sure,
numbers
yeah,
from-
we can,
from all of
absolutely,
that.
absolutely. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah,
No,
afterward,
that's okay.
absolutely, sorry. Gonna let them look, and then, so the start date, if you have a Wednesday on your calendar, it would probably be good if, on your,
Go ahead.
what would that Wednesday be, so families can see?
24th?
Wednesday, the 24th.
Good.
Yeah,
And I believe cohort A is that week.
So February 24th would be the first thing
Wednesday.
of pool testing.
Possible, if
Right.
she's ready.
No, that would be what it is if it's,
Mhm.
okay.
So, according to the document I have, there was no date set, so it'd kind of be a recollection of, I would say, personally, I would say April vacation would be my thought of
Right
the
before?
conversation we're in,
Up
up till April
Up till
vacation.
before April vacation occurs, end it before, and then revisit.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll
date is
revisit
that?
it that.
So there wasn't any.
That's kind of my interpretation of the conversation that we had.
Yeah,
Do we have a date for April vacation?
that is
Not in my head.
April.
No, I
Well-
just want to
Oh, that's okay.
be clear on the,
So there
I
was
think that's
no,
the 19th to the
there was no
23rd, right?
Joe, there was no statement as to how long the
19.
state.
No, in the
Date
document I have, no
covers?
specific date.
Okay,
April 16th would be the last day.
Yep.
so that would probably be like, we can just be
So the
clear.
14th would be the last day of the
The last
pool
Wednesday.
testing.
testing.
Thank you, Katie. All right, so thank you, Joe. So the 14th, so I guess if someone were to make a motion for us to begin pool testing, that would be up to that date.
So how about I make a motion to approve pool testing up till April 14th?
Why is
Second,
that the cutoff date? I mean, I understand
For now.
what was going on, but I understand why do we need to have a cutoff date in our motion? Was it a minimum amount of time? No, they want an end date.
no, it's a tentative end date because we want to revisit it
We'll
to see if
revisit
it's
it.
worth it.
We're going to be paying for it
Right.
for 2 weeks. The
The
state's
state
only
pays-
paying for a
pays
certain.
Well, that's
period.
fine, if that's based on that, then that's fine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, we'll get data
We'll
and
get
we'll take a
results,
look at the cost,
exactly.
but
Right.
Katie recommended we revisit. We do one period, revisit, and see how it's going, how many opt in, et cetera.
okay,
and
so
it-
that you're just picking the date after April vacation
Yeah,
Right,
to end it.
tentatively.
to
Phase
revisit.
one. So we're voting on what might be
Correct.
phase one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, now I got it.
I didn't want to say phase one because it would be I don't want to set it to be a hard date as well.
Correct.
So that's actually great because
Phase two.
we'll have a meeting on April 13th.
Right.
Oh, perfect.
So if
Right.
you want to come and
Would love to.
tell us
Yeah.
all the numbers and, bring a
The
floaty.
cost is about $50 a pool.
Bring us rubber duckies.
Bring a floaty and
Yeah,
some.
I'd love to bring a rubber ducky.
Yeah, if you can, you can.
That's actually good to know. I had
Yeah,
no idea.
It's about $50 a pool.
Okay.
Okay.
Cost.
Yeah, it'd be good to just have an idea of how it worked out, how many people opted in.
Yeah.
how-
Wish
how
they had
that-
done this like 6 months ago, but it's good that we're
The
doing it now.
technology was different and the testing was different. And so the thought is that we didn't want to traumatize children in their safe space, right? Which is school, but because it was different 6 months ago. Mr. Ford and I had many conversations about it, and now where we're only doing the outside of the just the inside of the nares.
Yeah.
It's a totally different space that we're in, and we've also seen other districts and the data that they've gotten from it, and we can build off of the lessons that they've learned. So I think it's the perfect timing.
Okay, so we're in the middle of we had a second on a motion, so we need to
Yes.
vote. Don't want us to forget to vote, so I'll start down this end.
Yes,
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 Yes.
Yes.
wonderful, thank you so much, Ms. Yellen, for coming and presenting and sharing this wonderful opportunity of
Thank
pool
you.
testing. Have a great night. Drive safe.
Gallon.
Have a lovely night.
yeah,
You as
thank you
well.
very
Thank you.
much.
Drive safe.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the school calendar. We were talking, although we voted, and it was, didn't have the half-days on it and a couple of edits. We voted as is, knowing there'd be edits. I wanted to bring it forward just to do a final vote on the final calendar, and it's got the half-days included now. And it just has all of the stuff noted for the policy JHE, observance of major religious holidays. I don't know if anybody had any questions or discussion.
We can't start on the 8th?
The eighth.
You
for
said
the,
20
for
questions.
the third time.
Oh, you wise guy.
Before anybody answers that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the calendar as presented.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Yes,
yes.
Aye.
Katie,
Can't do it.
I
All right,
can't.
fine, I'll vote.
don't make me fall off my chair.
No, I can't, I just
You
can't
said
vote.
no?
No.
You're a no. I'm a yes. I'm a aye. Okay, thank you. So this calendar is the school calendar for 2021, 2022 school year. School opens for all on September 1st. And then, just looking at the dates. So then September 2nd is the first day for all students grades 1 to 12. And then the last day would be June 14th with 180 days. If the 5 snow days are in, it would be June 22nd.
Correct.
Juneteenth would be the holiday, which would be on the 20th, if that were the case. So moving on from that, calendar is completed.
Still like September 8th.
We're now at the fiscal year 21-22 budget and articles. I would like to ask Ms. Husseini to just come sit at the table if you'd like. Yeah, because we do have the feasibility study article, so while we're talking, if something comes up, you're more than welcome to participate. Yep. So anyway, so we had the budget that, thank you to Ms. Shea, because she's awesome, gave us fresh new copies. We're meeting with the finance committee tomorrow, some of us. We have some articles that are going into the warrant, so Dr. Marcus, do you want to kind of high-level walk us through?
Sure, of the articles.
Yes.
So we have 2 articles that we'll be presenting. The first is the Special Education Stabilization Fund, and the Special Ed Stabilization Fund will allow us to be able to manage in a better way without going to back to town meeting or to hit the operational budget, but to be able to manage some of the more difficult or high-intensity kinds of situations that may occur in special ed in the future. And it's something that many districts around have done, and I think it's a great thing for Stoughton to be able to have that kind of stabilization fund, a reserve amount, to be able to take care of those serious needs. So that's one. And the second is a South Elementary School building project feasibility study. And that is an exciting thing. We'll talk more about that. But that is give us the ability to do a feasibility study around the South Elementary School and that project and the construction that we might be able to do with the Mass School Building Authority. So that's an incredibly important article at this point, given as we'll talk about the state of the school and our ability to move forward with a vision of excellent school facilities, both for South and across the district. So that's a really important article that we are putting forward, and because we're now close to the possibility of being invited in, this is something that I think is perfect timing. It was initially, we thought that it was a long ways away, and now we're actually getting really close to the possibility of this. So the timing for this being in spring town meeting is perfect. So.
I just want to make one clarification on the first article you spoke about, the Special Education Stabilization Fund. This article is only to establish the fund.
Thank you.
It doesn't have any monies carried with it at this point.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. The budget, just to kind of, anybody have anything they wanted to mention regarding the budget? Start down on your end, Joe, since I'm chair's turn this way.
No, good.
Katie?
Nope.
I'm very good at as is.
Okay, good.
I'm good, and I like the little highlights in blue, the explanation points. I think that's very helpful, and I think that will be helpful to questions that FinCom or anybody else may ask when they look at our budget. So it's very user-friendly. So kudos to you and to Kathy.
Tomorrow night, 7:30, be there, be square.
I will, absolutely.
So the only thing, I guess, on the budget is that while we're going to the FinCom meeting, we also have been working behind the scenes to discover, there seems to be a gap
Yep.
from a revenue component, and there's a gap, I guess they call that, I think they used to call it a hole, but now there's a gap, and we always try to do our part in doing that and digging deep. We brought forward an article to town meeting a couple special town meetings ago regarding security radios, et cetera, and we're able to secure some grants, and Senator Chilmulty helped with that, so we were able to secure some funding to get some of that equipment. And with having that, you had, Dr. Marcus emailed the chair of the financial committee to let him know, advise him that you'd like to turn back the funds while we recognize that we're in a pandemic and times are tough.
Right.
If we are in the need to revisit and get anything additional from the walkie-talkies, right? That's what they're called. Sounds so like kiddish.
Yeah.
But
No, I know.
but if we,
Two-way
if we're
radios.
in need of additional two-way radios, et cetera, as we get back into school and see how it works, I guess the pandemic happens, so
Right.
then we would always go forward to town meeting in the future years to put an article forward again, to be able to get that. So it's not something that we don't need, but
Right.
it's something that we know that we were able to obtain some through grants, which was wonderful. And now we would like to try to help and do our part and hand that back, those
Perfect.
funds back.
Well stated.
Yeah. Okay. That's that. And then the next part is the statement of interest, MSBA progress for the South Elementary School.
Thank you. So I just wanted to let the school committee know that, that I attended the select board meeting last week. And that at that meeting, I spoke and I wanted to let you know I shared my concerns that a select board member had reached out to the executive director of the MSBA a week or so ago, and that in that call, the select board member asked about MSBA's timing of how they award projects and possible delays in that process, and also stated some concerns about the South feasibility article and how that was coming up at the same time as a public safety article, and concerns that they might both fail, or that there was some competition or whatever. So I expressed my concerns to the select board that a phone call from a town official to the MSBA with questions about a school project really could raise some serious doubts and jeopardize the incredible work that is to come, and possibly impact our South families and students and staff, and then obviously our vision moving forward. So I wanted to let you all know that I expressed that concern, and that it was something that I hope moving forward that we are able to not have that in any way have an impact on the progress that we've made to move forward with that project. So
Can I
wanted
just
to-
clarify, I wasn't at the meeting, I wasn't able to attend, I had work obligations that evening, but, so it was a conversation that you had with the executive director of the MSBA, and he relayed the conversation that he had when he received the phone call from one of the select board members?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify if that's
Yep,
what that
thank
meant.
you.
Yep. Anybody have any comment, any questions?
I just want to say, I did attend the meeting, and I certainly support Dr. Marcus's statement that he made at the meeting about the level of concern and that, it really wasn't productive for the interests of the town and the interests of having our application seriously considered by MSBA. So we hope that that's not going to, turn out to be an impediment, quite frankly. That would be very disappointing.
Thanks.
Anita?
I'm good. I'm waiting to see how this develops. My own time.
Hello, Dr. Marcus. I guess the only thing that I will say is that we trust you. We understand that there's a lot of conversations that are had amongst different folks, and I know that when they're extremely important, you try to relay those to us. And for you to go to the select board meeting and express this is very unlike you. So, obviously, I know that's an uncomfortable thing for you to do, but we support that statement. I support that statement. And I also think that the only way that we can move forward is by having this discussion now and then just continue to move forward and try to do the best we can for the South School project.
Right.
So I'll say that,
Careful.
yeah, I'll say that our priority is the children of this town. My priority will always be the children of this town, even when my children aren't in the school buildings and they are at college or wherever they are. It is our duty as the citizens of this town to make sure that the children are taken care of, safe, getting a good education, and that we're making a conscious effort to do the right thing, no matter what. So I'll leave it at that, but we are the primary relationship with the MSBA. There's no denying that. And I think it's just important that, you know, we respect boundaries with other things, and I'm trying to have that boundary now, so I just hope that folks can respect that boundary in our relationships as well. That's all. Anything else? Okay.
I think it was awful that that happened, but I'm hoping that we just move forward and do what we have to do to make this project happen and just look out for the children. And despite that one person's actions, we're still gonna just hold our heads up high and continue to do what we do with integrity and transparency.
I'm just gonna bite my tongue.
This is the one time you decide? Wow.
I think
Take a picture of the screen, folks, because
He always gets in
Mark it on
trouble
the
every time he
calendar.
talks.
I know. Well, okay, yeah, again, onward and upward, we're just gonna keep going, and we're gonna continue to work our relationship with the members that do wanna work with us and try to make a positive impact on the town. So, beside that, we have Ms. Joyce Husseini here. It's so nice to have you. I didn't know if you wanted to give any insight around this wonderful, the calls that we've been having with the MSBA and the wonderful progress. It'd be great to hear from you.
Okay. I don't have all of my, it would have volumes of notes if I had them all in front of me. But we did have a wonderful conversation with the MSBA through the senior study, or part one of the senior study. I have in front of me a document that we've been using internally as a working document, which was a senior study questions. We kind of had an outline of what we knew they were going to ask. And Principal Mulvey and all of the principals actually and curriculum coordinators and Dr. Marcus and myself filled in all the categories. And so for me, this is kind of my leading document of where we need to go. This is just incredible for me, 11 years in the making, because I was here through the beginning of this to see it come to this point. It was a great conversation. They laid it out very specifically as to what the different timelines were. I think for me, the biggest difference between the high school project and when that came to be and now is that there's this, they will invite you in at a point, whether it's April or June, but that's not necessarily the day that your clock starts ticking, as it did with the high school project. So they'll work with you to set a start date so that it aligns with the process of your town meeting schedule to get the approvals that you need. And then a number of other things start to go into place. And you'll have to refresh my memory, what 60-day mark was something.
Right. So if we're invited in, and that would be, the most recent information is probably June, the beginning of June, then they, as Mrs. Husseini said, they give us a gap before we actually sort of, the clock starts ticking in order for it to align. So it could be July 1st, could be August 1st, so we'll do that. And then from there are various components along the way that you all experience with the high school project. That, you know, at 60 days, there's this document that comes, then at 90 days, and so on. So that first chunk of time, if we're invited in, is called the eligibility period, and that's when the feasibility study happens and the education plan is written, those kinds of precursors to really designing a building.
So one of those benchmarks is around 90 days in, which is their questionnaire that you have to fill out. And that kind of sets the tone for which direction you want to take. And I know this is a conversation that needs to happen. It will continue to evolve. Dr. Marcus has hit the road talking to PTOs about, you know, where we're heading with elementary education and elementary schools. And again, that's part of what this document contains for me as well, the working note. So to that end, Dr. McGee, myself, Mrs. Mulvey, we're looking at putting together a whole bunch of little snippets, if you will, little packages that give people a glimpse into the South School from an educational standpoint, what's lacking, from a building standpoint, a view of the properties, just a bunch of, whether they're videos or slide montages with some voiceovers, to be able to use presentation-wise, social media-wise, town meeting, presentation type thing. So that's our immediate goal, is to kind of work with this document and pull from that things that are easily digestible, not real long, but are focused.
That's nice.
I asked Dr. Marcus, I believe, like 2 weeks ago, or maybe even longer, it's all a blur. For the high school, I remember we had, Ms. Miller was wonderful in writing an education plan.
Yes.
Is there such a thing needed as for an elementary school?
Yes.
Or is that, what you're gathering, is that part of it?
No, there's definitely an education plan that's
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah,
and-
we're,
Oh, go ahead.
so the beginnings of that process right now, as Mrs. Husseini described, and I talked about a little bit a couple meetings ago, is that we, rather than sort of focusing in on a particular principal and a particular school, that we're really trying to work together as an elementary team. So curriculum coordinators, Dr. McGee with technology, Ms. Husseini, Mr. Ford, and work together as an elementary team to start brainstorming and envisioning, what a school of the future might look like.
So a higher vision of an elementary education.
To start, yeah. And then when that actual education plan needs to be done, which would be for a while, but we've got all of that documentation in front of us. And looking at other schools, other districts that have done these kinds of projects. Easton most recently wrote a really great education plan for an elementary school. And it speaks to all the kinds of things that we would hope for as well in terms of, what a great experience it would be for kids to be in a building with, a variety of different kinds of opportunities. So
Mr. Ford, you were part of this in the first part. I always pick on you, I'm sorry, in the meetings. He's like, why are you talking to me? So in the first, when we did this with the high school, you were part of it, and now you're part of it with the South. So what is your take on this process and your involvement in it?
Well, I mean, the process just keeps rolling along. There's going to be benchmarks we need to meet. I think what we need to do up front is just absolutely understand what the education is going to look like in the building. And there's a lot of lessons that we're learning this year in terms of technology and trying to understand, how is it going to be different in the future from what it was the last few years leading up to the pandemic? Because everything's changed.
Yeah.
And how are we going to take the lessons that we're learning this year in terms of implementing technology and different things and different efficiencies, even like parent involvement, and how is that going to translate into the structure of the new building? I think that's what I'm finding interesting about the process as we start developing the educational plan and we're having the meetings with the faculty. What's a traditional school going to look like 5 years from now?
Right.
As opposed to what it is right now.
right.
And I think that's really the key for us moving forward, is figuring those bits and pieces out and then allowing them to manifest themselves in the new design.
Go ahead. 11 years ago, in the 2010 master plan, we sat with the principals of each elementary school and we talked about this very thing as we put this first SOI together. And it was really difficult to have them wrap their heads around changing the delivery of a curriculum in elementary school. The innovation wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Other schools weren't doing it. And in a lot of ways, we're actually very fortunate that we're coming into it at this point, partly because of the pandemic has certainly taught us
Yes.
very different things, but also just the different innovations that have happened really in the last maybe 5 years around how classrooms are structured and how curriculum's delivered that I think have really worked to our advantage. So.
And I also, piggybacking on that, we were actually in a triennial plan where we were changing the instructional model of the elementary in terms of reading and writing. Going to the workshop model with the units of study and the Calkins, the model for instruction. We're actually in a great place. And in the future, it's finding how do we carry over all the pieces we were putting in place over the last few years to improve instruction, and then mate that with all the different things that we learned this year. It's
So cool.
It's very exciting.
this is a very opportune moment
Yeah.
to harness a lot of different experiences to really design a school that could have a tremendous impact moving forward.
It's interesting hearing you two because you guys are part of the process before, and what you took away, had we done it then, what's the difference? And then hearing your point of view coming in
Yeah.
and never done it, it's interesting. Anyway, okay.
And some of the ideas like space, I think, is a biggie too. Indoor space and outdoor space is a very different animal, than it was a year ago. Now we think about, I think outdoor space in the past was, was nice. It was a nice thing to do and all that.
that's
Now
true.
it's become imperative.
Needed.
And,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
that's true.
And so you really have to think about not just the envelope of the building itself, but in situations like this, what's the flexibility for us to be able to actually expand out?
Socially, emotionally, it's helpful to have those
Right,
absolutely.
opportunities for the children, and we don't have that in a lot of our
Right.
spaces. We have some, but not.
Right.
And I think there's things we give a lot of lip service to in terms of, connecting to nature. And again, I grew up in the Midwest and there's 10,000 lakes and all of that. But I grew up with a living lab outside of my elementary school. And, you talk about it and I've not seen it work well here. Yet we've got all this beautiful land with, nice forested areas and the ability to have trails and to really integrate that into the curriculum. And I think it's
Great.
time we do
That's
it.
how I feel. I
Awesome.
think that there's that opportunity with the land that we have to use, like, there's this opportunity to make something great.
Right,
Um,
right.
I remember when I went to the regional, obviously a long time ago, but we went on walks, and they have the small amount of woods over, but we would go for walks through the woods and stuff for the class, and it's just those things that we could provide that we can't. But I do think the space in the pandemic, being able to offer outdoor spaces for students, especially in the springtime when it comes and things
Right.
like that, to be able to have multiple groups, if they want to teach, if they want to have lunch, et cetera, outside and get fresh air.
Right.
We can't do that in some of these,
No, and with the land that we have, the land that our buildings are sitting on right now, it makes it really difficult
Yeah.
to do that. And so you really have to look at, what's there right now, what do we have available that we can actually expand? So I think that's key.
So Joyce, when we had the meeting with the MSBA, I thought it was amazing. I honestly thought the last meeting with them was awesome. They were like, they're just awesome. They're awesome to talk to, but they were very open about possibilities and and said, they really are excited. We're in like this other phase where it was 70 out, there were 72 and it's down to 30 in Stoughton, the South SOI's in that number, which is a huge deal. But they also said a couple times, we just really want to get these 2020 SOIs. We want to get some, some folks in the program, just seems like they're really excited to try to hurry and get that done as soon as they can. And they kept saying 2020, meaning they'll include 21 folks as well, so it doesn't mean it's going to be a smaller pool. Like, I didn't get that, feeling, Like, what are your thoughts? Like,
I don't know that I had the week following the senior study, I had a facilities directors meeting, and Jack McCarthy, the executive director, was our guest. And he spoke a little bit about the program, and he didn't give a dollar amount or a number yet as
Yeah.
to what would be invited. I know they're jumping right in and opening the next program in April.
yeah.
So it didn't come up as to how we would apply. Do we start applying right away
Yeah.
for the South? The thing is that the application period is quite long, so you don't have to, if you'll know by June, you'll still have time to apply if you're not invited in June to the next program. But it also got us thinking about, do we start applying for the middle school right away?
Exactly.
Because you do want to put it in front of them, even if you're not really ready to. I think a big part of the evolution of the South SOI was the ability to write it a few times
Yep.
and to really, have us practice putting everything out there and learning it and living it, because it's a document you really have to know well. But he didn't really give us an indication of how much money. And I don't know, although they're ready to spend it and they're ready to jump
It
in.
seemed very,
And
ready to go.
he told us Stoughton High was his favorite high school project.
Wow. Isn't that
what I
cool?
said.
During the thing. Oh,
Yeah.
see,
nice.
that's the executive director of MSBA.
Yeah.
Our relationship is amazing with them, and we'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah.
He's also mentioned a few times how he loved the education plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
one they had seen, right? The
Yeah,
high school.
and they actually reached out to other people who were applying for it and told them to look at that one too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, what I took away from the senior study meeting, because of course I'm very singularly focused and on the building, and I relate well to the people who talk about that, was the engineer from STV, and how they clearly understood the need, and they understood the need 10 years ago, and I'm really looking forward to them coming out and seeing the building. Hopefully they got a lot of pictures that supported the statements in the SOI, and, I think we've got a decent case there.
I agree.
Yeah.
So.
I agree.
The pictures were great, and certainly tell 1,000 words. I would love for them to come out and come out soon and take a look, because no matter what, that experience, and I've been through that a couple of times now with the MSBA, that walking through the building is always a huge, selling point for what are we looking at, and what can we envision for the future. So
I
looking
took
forward to
pictures
that.
on a beautiful, kind of slightly overcast but bright day, and put them into the drive and shared them with Mrs. Mulvey, and she goes, "Oh my, does the school really look that bad?" Because
sad.
when you're in it, you don't see necessarily how, yeah,
Right.
it does.
It's sad when I realized she said, I've been principal for 11 years. I was like, oh, that whole time you've been wishing for a new
Yeah,
building. That's
yeah.
how long she's been waiting for this.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big deal for her, too. I don't know, that the meeting seemed great. It seemed like it went really well. They were excited. We asked a lot of questions about potential of what to do. You know, we had the chair of the select board there. We invited her to come, and, you know, she was great as well, and you know, providing insight and knowing that this has been a long time coming, that this is being submitted for a long time. So it was just really exciting.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hope for the future conversations, Katie Pinanokian will be able to join, and we'll bring her in to listen, because I know the high school building one is ending soon. Look at her face. And, no, I think it's a good experience to be there from the start, but also, I think, because you guys are part of the high school one, it's nice to start bringing you in to those discussions, and we can just start advocating for this. I'm really excited. Joe, I know you're pumped.
Yeah, we had one of our almost last high school executive construction meetings today. We're no longer in need of weekly meetings and probably even monthly meetings at this point.
Oh, well, hold on, that's the next thing on the agenda. If you want to hold on 1 second.
Well, we have a meeting Thursday.
We have a meeting
Okay.
Thursday, yeah.
So if we're good with the MSBA discussion, if there's anybody, any good? All right. The last thing that they had stated was they wanted to do a walkthrough, perhaps a virtual or an evening walkthrough of the building, so that's next, just so everybody knows. Next item is under other matters, the high school building project.
Thank you,
Katie?
Joyce.
Thank you, Joyce.
Do you-
Yeah, there's nothing to report. I have a note to ask them. Joyce, do you remember if this was discussed at all? The fences, that kids are hopping the fence?
So I called the contractor who put the fence up to come out and extend the fence,
Oh,
and
good.
he stood me up. You know, so we will.
You know who you are?
It's never happened before.
Yeah, I know.
Snow.
In fairness, it was the day that it started to snow, that slushy snow, so we will revisit that and get him back out here, but,
Yeah.
because of the type of the fence, I'd really rather go with him, instead of having to have somebody ruin the asphalt to plant a larger pole in there. It's, yeah.
My.
There's,
Not gonna do the electric fence.
you know,
Katie,
Not everybody wears a collar around town, you know, so that's not gonna work. Come on, Katie.
That kind.
Yeah, yes, that's what she meant. Don't let her fool you. So
too
you
funny.
guys have a meeting Thursday, and it's kind of slowing down. Can I ask you guys, my one concern is, when we talked before, you talked about, I'm gonna use the wrong lingo, closing out the project or closing out the account. And my concern is that we haven't fully been in it, and you mentioned it, and that's now weighing on me, is the pandemic happened, the school opened, the
haven't
pandemic
utilized the
happened.
building.
You don't know what works, you don't know what doesn't
Yeah.
work, you don't know what's missing or breaks. So
I have a
how
list
long-
of about, I have a long list of
Okay.
items to be purchased.
Okay,
And some of them are things that, frankly, were just oversights.
Okay.
And some of them are things that, yeah, needed to be maybe souped up a little bit better. And some I still haven't accounted for. One of the discussions today was, they gave me a sub-meter for a water meter. So I've got a big water main that comes in, and then it offshoots to the hot water tanks, and there's a sub-meter along the line, which I thought was nice. I see the value in it, except that it's 16 feet in the air, and it doesn't have an electronic reader. So my guys do monthly meter readings, and I'm thinking, I just discovered in the plans, do I send a guy up on a ladder to read that every month? And so I asked the architect, and they go, oh yeah, that's what it is, but it doesn't have a reader. And it's like, what's the value to me? And they told
Right.
me it's there for lead. And I said, but okay, that's a great thing, and I see a value. What do I do? Well, you know, you could ask for it to be tied into the BMS system. And I said, you know, it's not even about that. I just want you to drop a reader down to eye level, or some sort of electronic device. So I'm going to be scoping that out and finding something so I can read
Yeah.
that meter. And you know what, there'll always be those things, and hopefully there are, you know, a couple hundred or a couple thousand in the scope of what they are. But as long as I've got the ability to identify them at this point, I'm going to identify them and purchase them.
Get a drone.
They're not going to close it out right away, though. I'm just concerned
No.
because the new school year will start and you don't know what, sports haven't even fully come into swing.
And they did find a few things that they've already, like, when Julie found, like, kids found a few hiding spots, so she, corrected that.
Yes.
So it's good to be able to have the kids in the school so we can kind of have it out. So that's why I was,
And there are things that we short budgeted because at the time that you were putting together the list of what to buy, you didn't want to overrun. And, an example is for one of the labs, they brought over 7-year-old Macs. All the other computers were replaced except for those, and now the money's there. Well, you're going to replace the 7-year-old Mac. So Ryan's already ordered that. And we have a couple things, as well with the facility and where, you sold it short. We didn't get the drop spreader for the tractor because it was going to put it over. If you got $4 or $5 or $6 million left, you're going to get the
Right, you have
drop
to.
spreader for the
You
tractor.
have to, because those are the things, too, I think the public should know that.
Yeah.
Eventually, we'd go to town meeting with an article for them. You don't want to, if we're doing it now, and we've
Yep.
taken the loan, and, we're at this rate, we really want to be able to do it the right way and not come back and ask for more
Yeah.
later.
right, when you say you're going to do this project, you want to make sure that
Do it right.
you dotted the i's and crossed the t's. I do have another question, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
What happened to the sign? Did Julie get mad?
What sign?
Oh, yeah, it's like halfway.
Oh, so the sign is what,
What did it do now?
the LED sign, only 1/4 of it is working. So one,
Not
Yeah,
again.
they were there the last week doing all sorts of work. When I was there with Verizon trying to get a phone line extended, they had their people running conduit. They've got 2 issues there. One is why that's not working, and the other that it's not working at the resolution that it's supposed to.
Okay.
oh dear.
It wasn't resolved as of today's meeting, and they're continuing to work on it. I honestly just wish they would turn it off instead of having it say
Quarter, yeah.
day,
It's like half-
AM, and
yeah.
something else,
Yeah.
and not knowing what the first part of it is.
Well, it's better than the bright green.
No, I was going to say, I was
was
glad
half
just to get it
green.
orange.
Yeah, it's orange now. But signage is kind of really the last of it. It's that sign, the signs for Night Walk, and then the interior signs for academic achievement are really the last kind of big, the signs for Veterans Memorial Stadium, the ones that go on the pillars, are going up as well. The decking for the pergola is there, but the final roof has yet to go on. And then the photovoltaic meters aren't in, so we can't use the cells, the PV
Solar.
cells, yeah, solar. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of, and no one knows when. We're at the mercy of National Grid. And other than that, things are, the railings for the bleachers around the soccer field track finally went in. That was kind of a last construction thing. And they are submitting for lead, even though there's a couple things like the PV isn't complete. We're doing well enough that they can submit now, and that kind of starts the clock on getting the higher reimbursement. They'll go back and submit the other points as they come along, but
Great.
we're very pleased that we're at that point where, without the PV and without having to wait, to go ahead and get the higher reimbursement rate. So
Great.
it's kind of where they left it today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Any other questions, Katie?
No, I'll wait till Thursday.
Okay. Well, these are the only answers I know.
Oh, okay. All right, then go before you, I think I want.
And Dr. Marcus, they plowed. I won't have to call you to give you an update in the middle of the night.
Oh, okay. So,
Does
Joy-
anybody have any other questions for Katie before, or anybody, because the high school, we kind of, sorry, Katie, you sure? We have Joyce here, so this is like a treat. So, no? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thanks, Joyce.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you,
Good
Joyce.
to see you.
And she
We'll get to
mentioned,
sleep
Katie,
tonight,
just
right? Okay, finally.
super quick, Katie. So what is it under budget right now, roughly?
4.6 since the last meeting.
4.6 million?
Good job, Katie. I think the credit goes to you, isn't that correct?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no.
Okay, great. That's awesome. All right. So next item is correspondence.
I did get a correspondence, and it kind of ties into the high school
Okay.
building, so I just wanted to say a thank you to the lady that sent me the email regarding the
Oh.
tennis courts.
Yep.
She thinks that they're beautiful and really appreciates them, but she noticed that they didn't have brooms or rollers,
Oh.
and that's something to kind of get the puddles out and everything
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. So I had mentioned it to Joyce, and she
that
will
why she
put it
ran
on
out?
the, she'll put it on the list, so that will get taken care of. So I appreciate the heads up, because I don't play tennis, so I would not know. So.
There really shouldn't be any puddles, because they should be nice and smooth.
I thought the same thing, and then.
I mean,
but-
maybe a a wet spot, but
But
I don't-
I guess what she was describing is that, anywhere that it pools.
You brush it out.
So-
You roll the thing. and-
Right.
something like that.
Joe, you look like
Brush.
the
the broom
cat that
brush.
ate the canary. What's going on down there?
Nothing? I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't have any, okay. Any correspondence?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm trying to, I always have a lot. Do I have any, Katie?
We got the one from Stephanie Patton regarding the,
Oasis?
Oh,
Yeah,
No.
no,
Dr.
the
Marcus.
remap.
The remap.
Yeah, the
Yes,
remap,
that,
which Jonathan
Mr.
Ford,
Ford
Mr.
is-
Ford mentioned. Jonathan Ford is a member of MAP. And would you like to, that correspondence, it actually is a correspondence between you and them. Would you like to just give us an update on where things are with that? If you can turn, though, I think the camera doesn't catch you because you're tilted, so if you turn.
You're trying to
Yeah, you have to
escape.
come in.
So, so the
Just
first
turn it
training is tomorrow. So it's a full day training that's followed up with a 2/3 of a day training on Thursday. So then we'll have an idea, a little more idea of exactly what we're gonna be doing. But I think it's maybe a year or two process. It looks like we're gonna be meeting every Wednesday, or at least one Wednesday a month for training, and then we'll go through a process for a subsequent Wednesday to do a debrief, like a sharing type activity. And then we'll take another day and then start building out what the plan's gonna be. So I'll know much more after tomorrow and the following training, exactly what our roles and responsibilities are going to be and how this whole process is going to shake out. But it looks like they have a great team, and
And the overall concept.
well, it's looking at your community, and you'll have to forgive me because I haven't been to any of the trainings, or I've only had one brief conversation. But it's really looking at your community and look at the diversity of your community, and trying to figure out ways to potentially address those issues if you're not serving all your populations fairly and equitably. And so what we're going to do is go through a series of trainings, and then talk amongst ourselves, also with the group, as to what our situation looks like, and then try to come up with a plan to address whatever concerns that we arrive at through the year-long process.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your update. That is very much appreciated. I know that she reached out and we had appointed, well, Dr. Marcus, I asked for a name,
Yeah,
from an administrator a while ago, and I did send it.
got a little lost in translation, but
So I sent it, and you followed up a couple times and heard back, so it was nice to finally get you connected, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think there were a couple transitions in terms of who was taking the point on the training, and then in the whole process in the committee. But now it's all straightened out. We're all lined up, and I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to.
Good,
Good.
that's great. Let me just take a quick look. I don't think I have anything. Did have a correspondence, no, whatever, just go there. So I did have a correspondence with the chair of the select board, just to share my concern around the matter that you mentioned earlier, Dr. Marcus, and
Yep.
making sure that we can continue to work forward, and not off, not off the road members' intention. We just continue to try to be positive and work together. The facilities master plan that was presented to us 2 weeks ago at our school committee meeting, I shared with the select board chair. I spoke to her 2 weeks ago about it because she and I had talked before the holidays about starting to get together once this was completed and talk about creating a townwide facilities master plan committee. So I did share the facilities master plan with her. I asked for the more recent version in PDF from the one that was in our packets previously. So that went, we have a meeting this Thursday to kind of kick off discussions and talk about what, the next steps are and what the idea is for that. So for the committee members, stay tuned for that. Dr. Marcus, Katie, myself, Joyce Asani will be there, and we'll be meeting with Dr. Grimm, Chair of the Select Board, Chair Howe, Paul Jaffoon, I think Mark Tisdale, just to kind of talk. So I wanted to just get this discussion started, figure things out. We had a townwide facilities master plan before. We should pick up from where that was, like we did with this school one, and refine it and move forward. So anyway, so that's a great correspondence that we've been having, looking beyond dramatic things that occur within the district, and look at the positive and continue to work with the select board to move forward. So that's that. The minutes for January 26, 2021 is the next item that we have.
Like,
I have a couple
Yep.
little changes, corrections. Page 1, the also in attendance line, I believe that Juliet Miller is listed twice, and one of them should be, I think, Joyce Husseini.
Sharp eye, Anita. I didn't see that.
Oh,
And then
good point.
Wow, keep
on
going.
page 3, about 2/3 of the way down under other matters, the sentence that starts to have Hanson family reached out, wanting to know the size of the classroom. I believe that was the number of students in the classroom.
Correct.
Okay.
Keep going,
I'm
Anita.
done. That's it.
I make a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes of the school committee, January 26, 2021, as amended by Anita's suggestions.
second?
All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You say aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay, good. Those meeting minutes are complete and approved. That does close this evening's meeting out. We will adjourn. We will be leaving public session, going into executive session to discuss, oh boy, the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 1445 COVID-19 Memorandum of Understanding, Stoughton Teachers Association COVID-19 in-person learning grievance update, the Stoughton Teachers Association COVID-19 in-person learning unfair labor practice charge, and the acceptance of minutes from January 26, 2021's executive session. We will not be coming back into public session.
Motion to go into executive session?
Second.
All right. Roll call.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Drive safely in the snow.